It has been just over a month since Joel Embiid was declared medically unable to play for this Sixers team and shut down for the remainder of this season. And since this time, we have waited with bated breath for what the next moves will be for the cornerstone of the Sixers franchise. And finally, we have our answer as ESPN's Shams Charania has announced that Joel Embiid is undergoing arthroscopic surgery to clean up that troublesome left knee. I'm going to discuss exactly what we know at this point in time, as well as why maybe this isn't the best news in the long run for Joel Embiid. So let's jump right into things here. I do want to start off initially with the Shams Charania tweet, which states, Philadelphia 76ers star Joel Embiid will undergo arthroscopic surgery on his left knee next week, a team official tells ESPN. Embiid was ruled out for the season in late February as he and the 76ers met with doctors to determine the best treatment to alleviate his knee issues. Now, we know the state of this overall season, that basically since Joel Embiid has been shut down, and frankly, it was crystal clear to everyone that watched Joel for a second this season that he did not look like himself on the court. Now, since he has been shut down, it has been this continued process of talking to doctors, talking to consultants. Nick Nurse has been asked about this a ton of times during his media availability and never really had a direct answer for the state of the process here, and they decided that this was the best way to go forward. Now, with that being said there, it does not seem like this is the surefire fix here. And in fact, a guy like Brian Stutterer, who does an awesome job breaking down he has an awesome video on this out as well, takes things from the medical perspective, and he quote tweets the initial report here. First, he just kind of basically said it isn't going to work, and then somebody said, want to at least elaborate on this wild prediction, to which he quote tweeted, how many arthroscopic surgeries have we been told will be a complete success for Embiid? Yet the issues keep persisting. The quick timeline suggests they will be doing more of a cleanup / debridement, which rarely fixes things in the long term. Short-term benefit, yes, but to act like this will fix things is basically untrue, was sort of his message with this. Now, when you dig into the Shams Charania report for what exactly was written from ESPN here, I do think this is important to note. He writes, the Philadelphia 76ers announced that star center Joel Embiid is set to undergo arthroscopic surgery next week on his troublesome left knee. Embiid will be reevaluated in 6 weeks and is expected to make a full recovery, sources told ESPN Shams Charania. For the past several weeks, the 76ers Embiid have been working towards a solution for the knee issues that have dogged him for more than a year and caused him to be ruled out for the remainder of the season in late February. These consultations with doctors and specialists ultimately led to the decision for Embiid to have surgery, with the hope being that he can get back to the level that he has played at in prior seasons. Now, a lot to break down here. To start with, the 6-week timeline tells us this is not a complete fix. This is not a meniscus recovery. This is not one of those invasive long-term surgeries that could potentially fix him forever. This is something that they're sort of evaluating, that I guess maybe the last surgery went wrong, we clean it up, and we can finally get the effect that we desired in the first hand. And to dive into exactly what the arthroscopic surgery is here, that I did want to pull up from online, of course, WebMD as usual, and it writes, knee arthroscopy is a surgical procedure that allows doctors to view the knee joint without making a large incision through the skin and other soft tissues. Arthroscopy is used to diagnose and treat a wide range of knee problems. During knee arthroscopy, your surgeon inserts a small camera called an arthroscope into your knee joint. The camera displays pictures on a video monitor, and your surgeon uses these images to guide miniature surgical instruments. Because the arthroscope and the surgical instruments are thin, your surgeon can use very small incisions rather than the larger incision needed for open surgery. This results in less pain and joint stiffness for patients and often shortens the time it takes to recover and return to favorite activities. Basically, my summation of this is I do think the Sixers are going to continue this process of being the least invasive and not going for that last call sort of surgery here. That sort of feels like where we're at with Joel Embiid. That we know that these injuries have been going on for quite some time, and to reflect on the list of surgeries that this man has had since he has been in the NBA. Shout out to Jacob Moreno for tweeting this out. And by the way, tune in tomorrow at 4 o'clock as me and Jacob will be streaming on the state of the Sixers and everything going on with this organization. But when you look at the list of procedures that Joel Embiid has been through in his career, we're talking about a second surgery on his right foot in 2015. Don't forget, the first one happened before he even came to the Sixers organization, and the only reason that he dropped to the third pick in the draft was because of that foot issue there. Then is a procedure on his left meniscus, the same knee that we're currently talking about, the first issues popping up in 2017. And by the way, there were some back issues in college that should not be fully overlooked either. Then, of course, there was the orbital fracture. I overlooked that one, not just kind of a freak thing there. A torn ligament in the left hand, and by the way, kept playing through that. Hit a game winner against the Toronto Raptors Raptors in the playoffs with that torn ligament. So shout out to Joel Embiid. Then a procedure to repair 2 fingers in 2022, a surgery to repair the left meniscus in 2024, and then another surgery to repair the left meniscus in 2025. And by the way, to be clear here, these are the only ones we know about. The Sixers have intentionally and been pretty calculated on being really careful and vague with the status of Joel Embiid. This has been the entirety of his whole career, and it is fair to assess, to connect some dots here, that's a Joel Embiid thing, that he wants his personal information, his medical information to be as private as possible. And to give kind of a peek behind the curtain for what exactly that means, I just gave you all this information from Shams Charania and all this other stuff. This is what we've gotten from Sixers PR as far as a peek behind the curtain here. This is all we got in the surgery. Following consultations with medical experts, it has been determined that Joel Embiid will undergo arthroscopic surgery next week to address his left knee. Further updates will be provided following the procedure. So yeah, we're not going to get anything out of the Sixers organization, and that's sort of been the state of things. That was really the state of things all season. Let's not forget that this entire year started with Joel Embiid being ruled out for the first 9 games of the season for knee injury management, for swelling, for things like that we yet to have it at any point this season have a specific injury diagnosed with them. And unfortunately, that's part of the problem here, that there is not a clear injury to fix. This is the state of Joel Embiid's knee. And when you talk about something like meniscus, that yes, I'm being kind of general and summarizing here, but it's basically cushion in your knee. It's there to protect. It's not something that serves as a function. This is not an ACL that is directly torn to how you pivot, how you cut, things like that. It is something that protects your knee from the wear and tear that goes on inside it. Now, with that being said here, when you lose that wear and tear and that cushion, it becomes painful. And that's sort of what I see from Joel Embiid. And to kind of reflect on what his performance was on the floor this year, 23.8 points per game, 8.2 rebounds, 4.5 assists, shot just 44.4% from the field, 29.9% from 3. Those are all career lows. This coming after he played just 39 games last season, when really the root of these issues were put on full display. Now, the frustrating part about all of this is there really is no clear answer to how things move from here. The reality is, all the Sixers can do is hope that Joel Embiid bounces back to the version of himself. And let's not forget that that 3-year, $192 million extension that he signed just last offseason has not even kicked in yet. That this man is under contract until 2028, 2029 on lucrative money. We're talking $70 million at that point. When you look around the league, and for the people that are the trade Embiid, move on, I hear you. I get the frustrations, all those things. I just don't logistically see a pathway to that. Certainly not one in which the Sixers can get better. At this point in time, the best bet is just hope this surgery works and then move from here. And I really do believe it is becoming more and more clear that the NBA draft lottery this season will be a fateful day in the Sixers franchise. If by some magical way they stumble upon Cooper Flagg, everything changes. If they lose that draft pick, this organization is going to be in a really tough spot. If that lottery balls play themselves out, the order is established, and the Sixers end with the 7th pick, meaning it goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder because it's a top 6 protected pick, they are in some significant trouble. Looking at this roster, logistically, there is tough to figure out how to make changes from here. Last offseason was our all-in approach. That is when Daryl Morey got in the lab, cooked up, that I've added Paul George to bring in next to Tyrese Maxey, next to Joel Embiid, that we have these other guys. Caleb Martin's going to be a huge part of this team for the long-term future. And all that has basically been scrapped to this point. But it can't really be scrapped because there's no pathway to get better beyond that. So everything that could go wrong has gone wrong for this Sixers season, but we sort of got to bite the bullet and understand we have to buy into the vision that running it back next year is the only option for this team. Again, the draft lottery is the biggest day of this entire season. That will be a fateful day in the state or in the future of the Sixers franchise, but all this is built around the foundation of Joel Embiid. If this is it for the big fella, and I don't think that is the case, this organization is in some trouble right now. That so much is invested in this current core, having Paul George, having Joel Embiid, of course Tyrese Maxey, not quite in that same tier as he's got quite a few more years still ahead of him, but there's so much money connected there. Paul George, $166 million remaining. 3 years, $166 million left on his contract there. You think another team is itching to put that on their books? Reflecting back to the fact that the Sixers were the only team to offer a full-scale max. The point being here, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but we have to buy into the vision that just next year is going to get better. There's going to be better injury luck, and that has to start and finish with Joel Embiid there. We'll see what happens to this point, but I'm not the most optimistic over this update. This isn't something to me that they've figured something out new, that they've established the root of the issue. This feels sort of like a prayer that maybe it'll work out. Maybe it'll be better if you go in there another time and just clean things up and then hope for the best. They took a whole month to discuss this, so hopefully, they came up with something and they have a little bit more intel that they're not letting on. I'm not ruling that past this franchise and Joel Embiid specifically because, once again, it does seem really important to him that his private medical stuff is not as public as most athletes don't really care about, or honestly, I would argue is basically a part of their profession at that point. But we're at the mercy of whatever comes out of this surgery here. And the Sixers franchise is going to be quite, I guess, leaned in one direction one way or another, depending on how that ultimately comes up. At this point, we keep in there and waiting. Send some good prayers to Joel Embiid that he gets under the knife and everything gets all better there. But not the best news that I think we can kind of lean on at this current point. But regardless, we're going to keep on chugging right here on Sixers Digest. Appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning into this video here. If you have not already, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button, dropping a like on this video, any comments below. Drop your thoughts on the state of Joel Embiid. I do want to hear from you guys. What's your level of optimism with this? Do you have any hope that things could get better from here? Or is it time to throw in the towel and hope for the best come draft lottery time? Hit that button as always. Talk to you next time and be right back right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.